Golden Dome is envisioned to be a large-scale missile defense network that should span across all of America to deter or defend the United States from potential foreign aerial attack. And what does that mean? That largely means missiles, hypersonic weapons, and drones that would potentially be launched against the United States from Russia, China, and North Korea. And so this envisions a multi-layered defense network that is going to have things from ground-based air defense systems all the way up to space-based interceptors, including space-based capabilities that do not yet exist today. And all of this is expanding geography, it's expanding capabilities, it is creating something that has never existed before. And as you can imagine, it's got a pretty hefty price tag that goes along with it. President Trump has said that it is going to cost approximately $175 billion. We ended up doing the math and we found out that that doesn't quite add up. Ultimately, what we found is that if we were going to actually create a network the way Golden Dome is envisioned in President Trump's executive order, it is likely going to cost $1.1 trillion, if not more, because the costs that we added up are just hardware alone. It's not also the cost of operating these systems, maintaining them, or even taking care of the personnel who are going to be using them.
Wow. So that is quite the difference between two already hefty price tags there, Becca. So if that is the true cost, according to your estimates, then who is ultimately going to pay for this?
Ultimately, it's going to be the U.S. taxpayers. The numbers that we compiled are largely based on existing U.S. military budget documents. We took the cost of existing systems, we added them up. We did our best estimates of the capabilities that don't actually exist today, like those space-based interceptors that I talked about before. And at the end of the day, who pays for these weapons? It's the U.S. taxpayer, more and more.
When you talk to experts, military experts, A, do we need this system in a realistic sense? And B, is it even possible to create?
Well, it's possible to create a system, but is it going to work the way that it is intended? That's not entirely sure. So I think what it is again, expanding the geographic scope of what needs to be protected, expanding how the United States would be protected and with what. All of that is going to make it really difficult because it requires developing new capabilities that haven't existed before and seeing if they actually work as designed. It requires taking existing systems, existing weapons, communication networks, and trying to map them together across a broader span of geography than they've been asked to do before. And even more so, on top of all of that, it is really just trying to expand things from where they have existed in the past. So all of that is just going to make it really difficult for everything to operate as envisioned and actually come to fruition.
Now, Becca, the reporting also shows that there's been about 1,000 companies that have been tapped to submit proposals for this project, right? And so do you think that this scale of industry involvement, is that something that could potentially accelerate innovation related specifically to this, but maybe other applications?
Certainly. I think, again, the emphasis on space is a great example where I think it's trying to imbue more potential funds and research and development in some of the future space-based capabilities that the United States might want to have in order to deter some of its most capable threats. Additionally, I think we're going to see, and we're already seeing that, frankly, with the list of companies who are potentially under consideration. You know, we're seeing this mix of old and new. Some of those companies that have produced weapons for years and years, but we also see some of those startups, those neo-primes who are trying to come in and be disruptors and do things a little bit different. So I think we're going to see that also playing out with almost two different cycles of research and development. One that's going to be part of the more traditional approach where research and development is largely paid for by the taxpayer, but also, you know, new cycles of research and development where some of these companies companies, particularly these privately held companies, are going to be willing to put forward their own funds for research and development and to develop some of these prototype weapons and capabilities to see if they actually work.
Is there any sense of timing of how this might play out? I mean, this is a 10-year thing. Is this I don't know.
Well, President Trump has said that this is going to be a no-kidding, in-existence system by the end of his term. So that gives us less than 4 years. The reality is there's no way that this could be built the way in which it is detailed in the executive order within 4 years. The clock has already wound down, if I'm being entirely honest.
Right.
So I think we do see a much larger cycle of development for some of these capabilities. There's even just really lengthy production cycles that are required to produce some of these capabilities at scale. Already you see in places like Europe and Ukraine where there are just not enough things like air defense interceptors, air and missile defense systems, counter drone systems, and all of those would also be required for Golden Dome. So the production timelines are quite lengthy, let alone some of those research and development timelines for those next generation capabilities.